Well, Marcus had this affair several years ago, and when Joni confronted him, they reached out to Fred and Anna Kendall.
Now, what I was looking for in Marcus, would he be transparent?
He opened up immediately. He was totally transparent.
Did these guys get real when they came in?
Yes. Well, the first thing I wanted to find out right away was, were they willing to work at it?
Now saying that unless Daystar pays them $7.5 million, that they're going to take our story that we just shared with you to the media.
You see, these three people that Joni shared with you, they're trying to take our pain and turn it to their gain.
Now, I understand that at the end of November, you were the target of a demand.
Yes, sir. These three individuals came forth and said, if you don't pay us $7.5 million, then we're going to take our information to the media.
You've probably heard this story before. It's been around for years. Cheating, infidelity, and cover-ups? Nothing new. We've seen it play out over and over again. But lately, things have taken another dramatic turn. From the Marcus Lamb scandal to Joni Lamb's journey, and now the latest buzz around Doug Weiss. The Daystar saga just keeps unfolding. Every time you think it's over, another twist comes along. And as always, the truth has a way of coming out.
That situation just put me in the darkest depression that I had ever been through. It was, my family was concerned. It completely changed my life. And quite frankly, I haven't been the same since it happened. I still am struggling and trying to get healing from it. And it's, over 10 years later. But what people don't know also is that my stepmother, who was like a mother to us, was living with me at the time, and she was diagnosed with terminal cancer and was only given 6 months. So I was dealing with a lot, just walking away from a job that I love, having to sell my house because of, situations that I'd love to get into later. But my whole world had changed. And the way that I dealt with stress before, I'm learning now, was to throw myself into my work. My identity was, I'm not married, I don't have children, so my entire identity was wrapped up in my job. And of course, I see now that it wasn't healthy. But when you were throwing yourself in your work, and anytime you experience a crisis and there is no work to throw yourself into because your livelihood has been affected, I think that's why it took me to a darker place. And not to mention the fact that you are in such a vulnerable, the place that you are told that you are safe and you let your vulnerabilities come out is in a church. It is with, a Christian environment. And to feel like I was betrayed in that area, the only way I can describe it to people is that I felt like I was spiritually, and that's a strong statement to make, but it's because there was nothing left. I mean, there was nothing left of me to give.
Jeanette Hawkins, former Daystar marketing director, is finally breaking her silence. After years of turmoil, she's stepping forward to share her truth. A truth that, for too long, was buried beneath fear and intimidation. Hawkins claims she was harassed, watched, and followed by private investigators, all while enduring what she describes as spiritual rape. A deep violation that left her feeling broken and betrayed by those she once trusted. The weight of secrecy and manipulation took its toll, but she refused to be silenced forever. Now she's speaking up, not just for herself, but for countless others who have suffered in silence. Her story isn't just about what happened to her. It's about exposing the toxic patterns that have plagued powerful religious institutions for far too long. She knows she's not alone, and she hopes that by sharing her experience, others will find the courage to step out of the shadows and reclaim their voices. Healing hasn't been easy, but she's walking that path boldly. And now, as she tells her story, she's sending a powerful message. The truth will not stay hidden. The voices of the hurt will no longer be ignored.
And it was, like I said, the darkest place that I'd ever gone through. And I want to talk about it because I know there's people right now that are probably experiencing this, where they've just seen all the negative or been a part of the hypocrisy in the church, or maybe they're living through fear each day in their job, because that is how many of these organizations are run. And they don't know what to do. We didn't have a Julie Royce to run to. So I think that's what made it tougher, is that we all felt like we were experiencing this alone. And so my heart now, and what has come from this, is to help others that are experiencing the same thing, and to be able to let them know. And I know that's the purpose of the Restore Conference, is to let people know you're not alone. There's healing from this, and there are healthy ways to talk about this. And so that's what I hope. If people don't walk away with anything more, I hope they can walk away with knowing that there is light at the end of the tunnel. They don't have to go through this alone, and there are healing avenues for them.
Welcome back, faithful souls. I trust that by God's grace, we are all doing well. Today, as you can see from the title of this video, we're going to play a detailed clip of what Marcus Lamb said.
You see, these three people that Joni shared with you, they're trying to take our pain and turn it to their gain.
Now, understand that at the end of November, you were the target of a demand.
Yes, sir. These three individuals came forth and said, if you don't pay us $7.5 million, then we're going to take our information to the media.
You might want to set aside some quality time to watch this all the way through so you can fully understand everything in this video. Basically, we're diving into the claims Marcus made, especially about the people he accused of trying to take God's money while challenging his infidelity. And guess what? One of those very people is here. Stay tuned because you don't want to miss this. Did these people actually try to extort Marcus Lamb? Or was it just a way to shift the focus from his own actions? When the scandal first came out, Marcus claimed that some individuals were trying to take God's money by using his infidelity against him. But was this really extortion? Or were they simply exposing the truth? That's where things get complicated. And then there's Joni Lamb.
What I was looking for in Marcus, would he be transparent?
He opened up immediately. He was totally transparent.
Despite everything that happened, she stood by Marcus in a way that left many people wondering, why? Was it love? Loyalty? A belief that their ministry was bigger than the scandal? Or was it about protecting Daystar's image and finances?
So it's almost like they double down. It's not enough to, have private investigators following you. It's not enough to have people going through your trash. It's not enough to, to have everything that Jonathan and Susie, it's almost like everything is done to the extreme. It was absolutely healing. I've, for more than 10 years, have held everything inside. And it's hard to explain to family, to people who haven't gone through an experience like this. It's hard for them to understand what you've been through. And when I went there, I felt like I was amongst family. And their stories were very similar. I finally felt understood. And I was able to get healing, much like many of the women there. I've gone to many, many women's conferences, and but this conference, although it is for men and women, it was such a healing experience. I feel like there's such a huge need. And when we got to the point where women were wailing, it felt like we were almost in like a funeral setting, because their healing was coming from the depths of their soul. And to that pastor that says that you're in it for the wrong reasons, I would invite him to Restore next year, because you are helping to heal wounds that have been there for a long time, and covering an area that never had attention to it. So I thank you for the opportunity. It has changed my life. I felt like for the first time I was able to pray and feel comfortable, because I couldn't even listen to worship music. And even that was a soft introduction back into worship. And so I was just on cloud nine when I left. So
She left a well-paying job to work at Daystar, even though the salary was nowhere near what she had been earning.
And I did it because I felt like the Lord had just given me my career, and it happened so fast. And I wanted to give something back to His kingdom. So when that opportunity came up, it was great. And I knew that I was going to take a pay cut. I was coming from San Francisco. That was the cost of living is higher there, but I was happy to do that. I was raised Catholic, and the Lord just always put people in my life to tell me about Him and to finally bring me to giving my heart to the Lord. And it's funny because He did that with all of my siblings as well. And so, yes, it was later for me, but I jumped in it head first. And I just covered myself in as much learning as I could, and with mentors that were spiritual mentors and great examples, because I had a great childhood, but just having people who walk with the Lord daily in your life is really, it just is like a shiny beacon. So, that was important to me, was to have mentors. Of course, I had male mentors, but when I got there, I was really excited. Joni, what I had seen of her, seemed on air to be, the perfect mentor. We were very similar in age. I thought she was down to earth. And so I was excited to feel like, I had some amazing mentors to look up to. And I think that's what was the most disappointing in this experience. But yeah, they were my spiritual mentors. I called them my spiritual mother and father for so long.
Very special program, because we are going to be sharing our heart with you today. And I just want to say right at the front, sweetheart, that you and I are strong, and I think that our marriage is better today than it has ever been.
You are just an absolute angel, and I am madly in love with you, and you mean so much to me.
However, I do want to share something with you. And Mark, I discovered that, but
I take 100% responsibility. Joni has no blame.
these are some of our most private moments, but there actually are 3 people who were not involved in what we're talking about today or affected by our marital challenge they're now saying that unless Daystar pays them $7.5 million, that they're going to take our story that we just shared with you to the media.
You see, these 3 people that Joni shared with you, they're trying to take our pain and turn it to their gain. But ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to take God's money and pay to keep from being humiliated, I guess, or exposed, or exploited, whatever you want to call it. I'm so sorry. I've asked God to forgive me years ago. I asked my precious Joni, and when this first came out, I said to her, I said, honey, I only want us to stay together if we really love one another, not for the ministry's sake, not even for our kids' sake. Right. And ladies and gentlemen, I love this.
I have a lot to say in this video, and there are other things I'll add as we go along. But for now, let's listen to what she has to say about the $7.5 million extortion claim.
Caught us by surprise. It was devastating, of course, to have something like that said, especially when it was not true. Our attorney was a prestigious attorney with a stellar reputation. Had something like that happen, I'm pretty sure his law license would have been affected. It's a federal offense, and if that were true, I would be in jail behind bars. So I know that now that it was a tactic that they use. Even seeing what Jonathan is going through. And it's not unique to their ministry. I've noticed that other ministries are doing that, but it's a counterattack to get ahead of the story and catch people by surprise. But it is devastating to be on the receiving end of an untruth like that.
Now, I understand that at the end of November, you were the target of a demand.
Yes, sir. These three individuals came forth and said, if you don't pay us $7.5 million, then we're going to take our information to the media.
Absolutely. So, everybody at Daystar knew, and I think by then our names had been leaked out. So even though they weren't saying our names in that specific episode, people already knew who they were talking about. So that's what was so shocking and devastating.
So, she practically tried to save her life, clear her name, regain her mental health, or whatever it took by filing a lawsuit. Stay tuned as we go through the details.
June 13, 2005, plaintiff Jeanette Hawkins was hired by defendant to serve as its director of marketing. In the process of applying for the job, plaintiff was interviewed by defendant Marcus D. Lamb and Janice Smith, who was identified as the vice president of programming, marketing, and affiliate relations of Daystar, and the individual to whom plaintiff would report if she became director of marketing. Before accepting the employment with Daystar, it was very important to plaintiff, who was and is a Christian, to determine the moral integrity of the organization and especially the individuals under whose authority she would be placing herself. Indeed, in an employment brochure, Daystar encouraged job applicants to do exactly that, quoting 1 Thessalonians 5:12, "And we beseech you, brethren, to know them which labor among you, and are over you in the Lord, and admonish you." Accordingly, plaintiff asked both defendant Marcus D. Lamb and Janice Smith about the moral standards with which Daystar was managed and the moral climate of the workplace there. Both defendant Marcus D. Lamb and Janice Smith replied and represented to plaintiff that Daystar was operated in conformity to the highest standards of Christian behavior, making specific reference to chastity, modesty, and purity, and that conformity to those standards was required of all employees. Written information provided to plaintiff by Daystar made similar representations. These representations were made by officers of Daystar in the course and scope of their employment with Daystar. When defendant Marcus D. Lamb and Janice Smith made these representations to plaintiff, they were themselves in the midst of an illicit sexual affair which at that point had been going on for approximately 5 years. They did not disclose this fact to plaintiff. Daystar offered to plaintiff the position of director of marketing, and in reliance upon the false representations by defendant Marcus D. Lamb and Janice Smith on behalf of defendant Daystar, plaintiff accepted the employment and began work, reporting directly to Janice Smith and indirectly to defendant Marcus D. Lamb. Thereafter, defendant Daystar and defendant Marcus D. Lamb himself continued to make representations about Daystar and about the marriage between defendant Marcus D. Lamb and Joni Lamb that were false in light of the ongoing affair between Marcus D. Lamb and Janice Smith. Plaintiff was an excellent employee of Daystar, performing her duties with skill and professionalism. Daystar repeatedly acknowledged these facts. In August 2007, an employee of Daystar named Terry Germany, who reported to plaintiff, advised plaintiff and another employee named Greg Brondo, who was in charge of information systems, that he had found emails clearly proving that defendant Marcus D. Lamb and Janice Smith were having an illicit sexual relationship and that it had been going on for about 7 years. In addition to many lewd statements, defendant Marcus D. Lamb wrote in one of his emails to Janice Smith that he could not wait to make her the next Mrs. Marcus Lamb. The emails also revealed the financial resources of Daystar had been used to facilitate trysts in other locations. Mr. Germany provided copies of the emails to plaintiff and to Mr. Brondo, and promptly thereafter tendered a 2-week notice of his resignation. The revelation of the ongoing and long-standing affair between 2 senior officers of Daystar, and indeed the 2 people who interviewed plaintiff and to whom she reported, was utterly devastating to plaintiff. The illicit sexual relationship between defendant Marcus D. Lamb and Janice Smith obviously violated the published statement of core values of Daystar. Plaintiff and Mr. Brondo did not know what they should do, so they consulted Fred and Anna Kendall, who were experienced marriage counselors and who often had appeared on Celebration. The Kendalls advised plaintiff and Mr. Brondo that defendant Marcus D. Lamb should step down from his leadership position and that he and Joni Lamb should seek marriage counseling. They refused, however, to confront defendant Marcus D. Lamb themselves and left to plaintiff and Mr. Brondo the decision as to exactly how to present the information to the management of Daystar. Plaintiff and Mr. Brondo decided to explain the situation to Bill Trammell, who is the father of Joni Lamb, and who then occupied a management position at Daystar. They did so and provided a copy of the emails to him. He thanked them and told them that he would provide a copy of the emails to Joni Lamb. Almost immediately thereafter, Joni Lamb called plaintiff and thanked her for bringing the affair to light. Although this may also have been misleading, as the emails contain information suggesting that Joni Lamb already knew of the affair before it was discovered by plaintiff. After plaintiff and Mr. Brondo spoke with Bill Trammell, Joni Lamb insisted that Janice Smith leave Daystar immediately. Daystar hastily agreed to purchase her home and entered into a sham consulting agreement under which Daystar paid substantial sums of hush money to her. Thereafter, Janice Smith moved out of state and did not render to Daystar services of equivalent value to the substantial sums she was paid. Daystar then actively deceived people both within and outside the Daystar organization about the reason for Janice Smith's departure. Janice Smith had been in a high-profile position and had herself appeared frequently on Celebration, but suddenly she was gone. Many people asked what had happened. Daystar and Joni Lamb in particular directed plaintiff to participate in the cover-up and deception concerning the departure of Janice Smith. This, coupled with the flagrant breach of trust described above, was intolerable to plaintiff, so she resigned her position with Daystar. The last day of her employment there was on or about May 31st, 2008. Both before and after her departure from Daystar, plaintiff experienced severe emotional trauma because of the egregious misrepresentations made to her by persons whom she had loved and respected, and because of the improper instructions to lie about the affair and the fraudulent financial transactions that ensued. Eventually, plaintiff's depression was so severe that she became suicidal and was involuntarily committed to a mental institution. As a direct and proximate result of these events, plaintiff sustained compensable injuries, including but not limited to severe mental anguish and emotional distress, as well as lost income and benefits. On November 18, 2010, the undersigned attorney delivered to a lawyer named John Terrell Lynch IV, who has a long-standing professional relationship with Daystar, a letter stating that he is representing Jeanette Hawkins, as well as 2 other former employees of Daystar. On November 30th, 2010, at 11 a.m., Daystar broadcast a new episode of Celebration, in which defendant Marcus D. Lamb admitted that he had been unfaithful to his wife. Various guests, including the Kendalls, appeared on the program and praised defendant Marcus D. Lamb for his transparency and the manner in which he had conducted himself. The descriptions of the affair and the ensuing events were completely misleading. The inappropriate relationship was incorrectly described as lasting a brief period of time. It was falsely represented that the other participants in the affair bore no responsibility for what happened, despite the fact that she had been a senior officer of Daystar and fully aware that the company's resources had been used improperly both to arrange secret meetings and to cover up the affair. Defendant Marcus D. Lamb falsely represented that he had stepped down for an extended period of time from preaching. During the same broadcast of Celebration, multiple references were made to 3 unnamed persons. It was falsely stated that these 3 persons had informed Daystar that unless Daystar paid them $7.5 million, they were going to take to the media the story of the affair. This was described as a work of the devil. Defendant Marcus D. Lamb falsely stated that these 3 persons are trying to take our pain and turn it into their gain, and stated that they were not going to take God's money and pay to keep from being humiliated or exploited. He urged his viewers to pray that the enemy will not be victorious.
Listen to this part. It's going to kind of give it away.
I don't even know if he actually saw anything.
Because he had his back to her.
Did you hear that? If your ears are quick, she don't know if he even was able to see anything. And then the red wig, let me play it again. Red wig at the end. Listen to what she said.
I don't even know if he actually saw anything.
Because he had his back to her.
How you know that, red wig? Nobody told you on the show. You getting ahead of the script, red wig. You getting ahead of the script. You wasn't supposed to say that yet. Other words, red wig is so eager to be a ride or die that she said, Joni, I'm going to just throw in something in there. I'm going to just say his back was turned to her. His back was turned to her. You wasn't there, red wig. But somehow, you know his back was turned to her. Brothers and sisters, Joni is telling Pete's side of the story. That's all this is.
Well, Marcus had this affair several years ago, and when Joni confronted him, they reached out to Fred and Anna Kendall.
Now, what I was looking for in Marcus, would he be transparent?
He opened up immediately. He was totally transparent.
Did these guys get real when they came in?
Yes. Well, the first thing I wanted to find out right away was, were they willing to work at it?
He and Anna told us that. And they were marriage counselors. They were counselors within Daystar. So we felt comfortable telling them and possibly getting their help to, give us wisdom on how to disclose this, or to even, to let Marcus and Joni know. And they did. They had a strong stance, but they backed off very quickly. They never, I don't believe they ever confronted him. And that was disappointing as well. It's just behavior that you start to see over and over. And Daystar was and is probably still run on a fear basis. And so I don't know whether, with Fred and Anna, if it was fear or if it was for other reasons, because they did work very closely with Daystar, and there were some, financial dealings. So, but yeah, it was tough. It's definitely a business. It's a family business, and what people don't realize is they bring people like me from the secular realm in because they start to look at it as a product. You are a product, and what's the best way? Let's get research. What's the best way that we can reach them with the product and in raising money? And, so if we go through it like with, much like we would in the secular realm, with surgical precision to know the areas, the cities to go to where they could get the most response. And where they could get the most, see the most financial return. So it's sad, and people don't realize that you're watching your TV at home, but on the other side, it operates as a business to the point where there is surgical precision to how to market to to those people. And it's all about financial gain. And that is a scary place to be. And it's very dangerous. So I think it's important for people to know that. They don't fear God. It's almost like some of these organizations live two completely different lives. And I went in looking at it from rose-colored glasses. I was actually warned by some of my secular colleagues. They said it would be career suicide because, they operate in such a different realm, and I had no idea that would be prophetic. But yeah, there's no accountability, and that's the tough thing too. Is I look at it differently now. I look at all the red flags. If it's family owned and operated, and family lives on or is on the board, that's a huge red flag to me now. And so there's different things that I look at going into even my own church. Three of them, in fact, and it was very similar, if not the exact same situation. To say that the trackers were only put in during Jonathan's era, I don't believe that's true, because there were many times that I knew that I was being followed, and people would pop up in certain places. So I thought I was crazy at the time. It makes sense now, but yes, we were being tracked, and it's a scary thing for a female to go through. And I'm in trauma therapy, and unfortunately, that was a part of some of the trauma that I experienced. And to hear that Jonathan was going through the same thing, it breaks my heart that a mother would go to those lengths to stay in control, because it's all about control. I mean, I think the best story is not so much to tell about, a private investigator following me. It was what happened shortly after I started working. I had to pay the bills, so I started working at a retail outlet in the cosmetics department. And Joni and her mother come in and made a sarcastic comment like, oh, she went from, being the director of marketing to doing this. And it hurt me, and really, and it caught me off guard, because I would not have ever thought that they would be that character, that they would have that in them. But so not only were they going to my job to harass me, but they were sending other people from the organization to go in and harass me. And because cosmetics is so close, you deal with the public. That was really hard to go through. So it's almost like they double down. It's not enough to, have private investigators following you. It's not enough to have people going through your trash. It's not enough to, to have everything that Jonathan and Susie, it's almost like everything is done to the extreme. And so, to this day, I still find myself, if I'm in a restaurant and I'm talking to somebody about a church topic or something questionable, I look around to see if there's, somebody who looks like a private investigator sitting nearby, because we did experience that as well.
these issues still affecting Daystar today might have something to do with the very foundation it was built on. Some people tell me to stop posting about a man who is no longer alive, while others say I should stop judging because judgment belongs to God. But the real question is, should the truth be ignored just because time has passed? Listen carefully. Foundations matter. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? Psalm 11 verse 3. If something is built on a shaky foundation, problems will continue until the root issue is addressed. Exposing the truth. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Ephesians 5 verse 11. Just because someone is no longer alive doesn't mean the truth should be ignored. The Bible encourages exposing wrongdoing. Judging rightly. Stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly. John 7 verse 24. Judgment isn't always wrong. Jesus himself said to judge with righteousness, not hypocrisy. Accountability even after death. But I tell you that everyone will have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. Matthew 12 verse 36. Death doesn't erase accountability. Every deed will still be judged by God. Speaking the truth, no matter what, preach the word. Be prepared in season and out of season. Correct, rebuke, and encourage, with great patience and careful instruction. 2 Timothy 4 verse 2. Whether people like it or not, the truth should be spoken. Time passing doesn't change what is right.
And even secular media, because what people don't understand is it's such a small world that you can buy and sell stations from, the same organizations. And so, yeah, I believe that I was affected professionally as well because of the relationships that are in television. So I believed I was going to bounce back. And I think when it was like just a reality and a slap in the face is 2 weeks after actually it was a week after I left, I was contacted by a huge cosmetic organization that's based here in Dallas. And they had interviewed me, I want to say at least 3 times. And they had made me an offer I had accepted. And then a couple of days later, I heard back and they said that they'd heard that I had worked at Daystar, but that I was no longer there and they needed to rescind the offer. And, again, I can't prove anything, but, I was left, heartbroken because I just thought, how can somebody affect somebody's livelihood, especially when, it's on the outside. It was a part of secular media. And I had been in secular media for 15 or more years, and I'd only worked at Daystar for 3. And, another example is I was interviewed for a marketing director position for a PBS station in San Antonio. And this was not long ago. This has only been a couple of years ago. And I had, more than one interview. The general manager of the station walked me around. Usually that's a good sign, and was introducing me to people. And the next day he brought me in to meet their operations director. And the operations director said, I see that you worked at Daystar. And I said, yeah, but that was only 3 years of my career. I've had an extensive 15 or more year career in secular media. And he said, well, I know Arnold Torres. I'm going to give him a call. And I knew as soon as that was said that I was not going to get the job. And, I don't even have to know for sure that phone call was made. But shortly after that, they said they were going to go with a different candidate. So, it's just been a slap in the face to not only be blacklisted in Christian media, but like you said, in the secular realm as well. And, at my age, it's hard to find a place where you can use your experience, because they would much rather hire young, college individual or somebody with not so much experience. And so it really is hard. And I think the other, heartbreaking reality is that when things like this happen, you don't hear from the other pastors. I mean, there's crickets. However, they're the first to point out political injustices and call your elected officials out, but they will not say a word against each other, even when they know that it's true. I've learned that they keep each other's secrets, and that's how these ministries can do the things that they do and operate as long as they have and make as much money as they do. So it's a tough realization to come to.
Jeanette Hawkins still has a lot to say, but at this point we have to ask, what has all these long past issues done to Daystar TV today? How has it affected the company? Or, as some might put it, how has this scandal impacted the family business? After years of standing by Marcus Lamb, Joni may have finally come to terms with everything. Could it be that she realized the weight of what she had defended? Maybe she lived with the guilt all along, and that's why she was able to move on so fast after his passing. So let's talk about it. Has the foundation of Daystar been shaken beyond repair? How deep does the impact go? And most importantly, what does this mean for its future?
Divorce and remarriage are complicated and emotional topics, often raising questions about biblical teachings. Today, we're breaking it all down through the story of Dr. Doug Weiss and his marriage to Joni Lamb, the widow of the late Marcus Lamb. This union has sparked Joni Lamb made a bold and unexpected choice. She forgave Marcus and chose to fight for No matter what situation you're facing, God's love and wisdom are always available to guide you. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe Marcus's past actions, Doug's divorce, and Joni's decisions align with biblical principles? Do you see forgiveness and grace at play, or do you feel there's a contradiction in how things have unfolded? Let's keep the conversation respectful and biblically grounded. Share your insights below.